Hey, everybody, welcome on back. This is the Rubbin is Racing podcast, and it's brought to you by Body Armor. This episode is brought to you specifically by Body Armor Chill, a bold new way to hydrate with no artificial dyes, flavors, or sweeteners. Enjoy a refreshing, cooling sensation in 3 impossibly cold flavors: frozen berry, which is what I'm drinking today, frozen cherry, and frozen orange. It's available for a limited time, so grab yours at 7-Eleven or a store near you. And also Blue Chew. Have better sex with Blue Chew. Blue Chew is the original brand offering chewable tablets for better sex. And starting now, Blue Chew is offering a combo so strong, it'll knock your socks off and your neighbor's socks off. You'll have to move towns with the amount of noise you'll be making. Blue Chew Max has arrived, and it combines the active ingredients of Viagra and Cialis into one chewable. This combo acts fast and it lasts. Guys, be ready when she needs it and get your first month of Blue Chew free. Great sex is a few clicks away. Sign up at bluechew.com. Consult with one of their licensed medical providers. And once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. Blue Chew tablets are made in the USA, prepared and shipped directly to your door. And the best part, it's all done online. That means no visits to doctor's offices, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. Blue Chew won't stop until every man is bricked up like a brick house. That's the mission. So make life easier by getting harder and discover your options at bluechew.com. And we got a special deal for our listeners. Try your first month of Blue Chew free when you use promo code Rubbin. Just pay $5 in shipping. That's promo code Rubbin. And visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast. All righty, guys. Welcome back. How's everybody doing? Spider, Quigs, Moonhead, Jacob behind the ones and twos off camera. How's everybody doing on this fine Wednesday afternoon?
Doing great. Beautiful weather in Chicago. A lot to look forward to. We got Mexico City upcoming this weekend. We'll be en route when you're listening to this, if you listen on Friday when this episode drops. We also have some new merch in the store. So Quigs and I have these new shirts. We're going to show them for those of you watching on YouTube. Some 4th of July kind of racing designs. Ooh. So those are pretty cool. Make sure you check those out. And also, we're right at the we're approaching 5,000 subs on YouTube. We're slightly almost there. So I would love for you guys to really hammer that subscribe button. Thank you for joining us if you are watching on YouTube. And we got a great Jeff Gordon interview coming up. Large, how was that?
Good. Yeah. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, and as Spider said, if you are, like and subscribe, you'll see that I'm drinking wine throughout the whole thing. One of the people that helps us out here used to work for Barstool. Now she's with Amazon, Jackie. She just mentioned casually to me, Jeff's going to be there in about 15 minutes. He went through a whole car wash of different shows and whatnot. Barstool was the last stop. She's like, and I think he just wants a glass of red wine. I took that literally, went out and got a bottle of Camus, cracked open a couple of fucking glasses. And Jeff Gordon's like, yeah, I'm down. He didn't want to drink during the interview because he's a professional. But afterwards, I kind of sat down and had a couple glasses of wine with Jeff Gordon. So
that sounds like a dream.
Yeah, just good ways, good vibes all the way around. I think we got Blaney coming up, right? And Blaney in the office.
We got Blaney in next week, so that should be awesome. He's coming to Chicago. He's going to be on the Yak, as well as Mostly Sports, and we might have some tickets to give away. So from what I understand, Blaney was at our Barstool Nashville bar ahead of the Nashville race, gave some lucky bar goers some tickets for that race, and I think he might be doing the same next week. So looking forward to that.
If you follow Ryan Blaney on social, he's doing some ads for a sauna company where he kind of strips down and jumps into a sauna.
I saw that.
Highly erotic, right?
Yeah, I saw the women in the NASCAR world were freaking out about that today.
They really, it seems like they really like the cut of that guy's jib.
Yeah.
I don't have a shot. So we just played golf with him a couple of weeks ago, Indianapolis. He was at the Barstool Nashville bar. He's coming into Barstool HQ. Ryan Blaney is a friend of the firm, and we like him for it. I think Joey Logano's coming in next week. He's going to be in New York. He's going to be in New York City. So I'm trying to hook him up, maybe doing a Frank Walks, and then he's going to come by and do some time with us. And then Frankie Muniz is coming in a couple of weeks as well. So I think it's always better when we have these guys face to face.
For sure.
We're very lucky to have, Jeff Gordon, obviously. And Jeff's promoting a new documentary that's on Amazon called American Thunder. It's all about when the Hendrick team went over and ran in the 24-hour Le Mans a couple of years back, 2023. And very good. I watched it, and it drops. Well, this will be dropping on Friday, so we'll have dropped last night. So it's already live on Amazon. So if you guys want to check out American Thunder, you can catch it on Amazon. By the way, Amazon is still killing it, huh, guys?
Yeah, they're doing great. I really enjoyed the whole coverage, especially the post race. I love that they stay on and do a bunch of driver interviews. They spoke to Ty Gibbs at length this week, which I thought was awesome. And yeah,
They just, I think Moonhead might have said it after the first race, but they just make every race feel more important.
Like an event.
It just has a vibe of like importance. And they also, I don't know what went into picking, but they picked a great slate of races, like a 5 race.
They do have a great window for sure.
Which I don't know if they just landed on that because that's all they could get, or if they put a lot of thought into like which 5 they wanted.
Well, I think it's one of those things where we were wondering whether they can keep up the pace.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you're going to start with the Coke 600 and, have a pretty good race and, Ross and all that stuff, it's almost easy to do, or you think it'd be easier to do. But then Nashville wasn't a lot of fireworks. So, but still they operated on a high level. And then we go into Michigan for this Firekeepers Casino 400 last weekend. We got another great race. To your point, Quiggs, they got lucky with it, but that's not a typical Michigan race. It's not like they circled that and been like, that's the fucking one I want to have. But it might be one of my, if not my favorite race of the year.
Yeah.
So I think it's a little bit more luck than anything else for the quality of racing, but it's not luck with the quality of the broadcast. So I'm going to mention that to Jeff too. I have to tread a little lightly because I know he was part of broadcast teams before, but these guys are doing it better than anyone's ever done it. So I'm just going to try and bring it up without making it seem like he wasn't good at his job. You know what I'm saying, boys?
Yeah.
For sure. I'm a little bummed we're not going to be well, I don't know. I shouldn't say bummed. Obviously, we're going to have a great time this weekend, but I think it's kind of like I can't have my cake and eat it too. Part of me wants to be watching this race on TV because I know Prime is going to body the coverage, and street races are typically better to watch on TV, so you can kind of get a more full perspective of what's actually happening on track.
Is this going to be a day or night race?
Believe it's daytime, right?
Mexico.
Daytime in the rain probably this weekend.
Yeah, don't even say that word, Moon.
It's the Viva Mexico 250 on starting at what time? 3 p.m. live, 3 p.m. Eastern time on Amazon Prime.
I guess most road courses.
Is Mexico City Eastern time?
No, I'm saying 3 o'clock Eastern time here. So whatever I guess Mexico City is.
Mexico would be whatever.
Central Standard Time. So that's our time zone. All right, great.
Okay. So yeah. And I'm looking forward to going. Spider, I'm starting to come around on it a little bit. I've been speaking to a lot of people about Mexico City. I didn't realize it was the largest city in North America by population. There's like 20 million people there. It's top
I also
6
hear
in the world.
Insane elevation.
Yeah. We're going up. It's like the Appalachian Mountains of Mexico, from what I gather.
Like
way more.
Twice.
Yeah. Large. I did hear it's one of the best food cities in the world. So bring your appetite, dog. Hopefully we can see some of your great food content out of that, and hopefully we can sneak in a great meal.
Yeah, I think we have a pretty good, if you look at the restaurant reviews and whatnot for Mexico, this place Pujo is the one that people really rave about, and we got a table on Friday. I don't know if you're going to go to that one, Spider. I put my name in for it, but so I think that's going to be a worthwhile one. But otherwise, I'd rather try to get out there and experience like an old lady cooking, I don't know, sopapillas on a fucking hubcap somewhere. I think that's going to be pretty cool, if we can find that type of shit. So,
have you seen the weather from Mexico?
No, is it brutal?
This is. I thought this was the hourly forecast for a second. This is the 10-day forecast.
No.
It's 10 days of thunderstorms.
This is Chicago Street Race 2.0, isn't it?
It is 10 straight days of thunderstorms from today the 12th, or tomorrow the 12th, to Wednesday the 25th.
That is crazy. I'm telling you right now, it's 80 degrees and partly sunny in New York, and we're going to Mexico where it's going to be 70-degree high and a 60% chance of showers. It is wetter and colder in Mexico City than it. I wouldn't have guessed that. But
Sunday is the least chance of rain over the next 10 days.
They might have to move the race up earlier.
Yeah, maybe so.
I don't know. We'll see.
We'll get into the whole thing. So let's figure out what happened last week. So trucks, very eventful race, fun race to watch, truck race this week. Stuart Friesen with the win, but it was almost overlooked with the announcement that NASCAR Truck Series will feature 4 manufacturers for the first time in over a decade next season, with Ram entering, so joining Chevy, Ford, and Toyota. Dodge won the manufacturer's title with Ram in 2001, 2003, and 2004, and pulled its factory support from all 3 divisions ahead of the 2013 season. And then here we are 12 years later, and Ram is back in the Truck Series. This is what we know right now. It does not include a planned return to the Cup Series. The plan only involves Ram in the Truck Series. They're aiming to have 4 to 6 entries on the grid for the 2026 opener. There is no finalized partnership with an existing team, but should the field size increase as a result of Ram's entry, NASCAR has indicated that they are willing to consider increasing the current field size in the Truck Series. So for perspective, Toyota entered the Truck Series first in 2004 before expanding into the Cup Series in 2007. But even though they're saying that they're not necessarily going to Cup, this shit kind of happens within a couple of years. And then all that shit's overshadowed with the imminent announcement that Honda will be joining the Cup Series. Spider, what do you feel about now having to buy some Ram gear? I'm sure the Ram gear that they put out for the fucking Truck Series is going to be dope. We got to get some of that shit in. How do you feel about them adding a 4th manufacturer?
I'll get to that, but before I got to take my Polish victory lap.
Go.
I told you on one of the first episodes this year that there would be new manufacturers entering the sport. I said it would be Dodge, Ram, and also Honda. Everyone just replied and was like, "Oh, it's going to be Dodge, it's going to be Ram. Here's the links. Sure, that's half of it. But I also said Honda. So, I mean, I stand by this. I think this is a thing that's going to happen. I have reason to believe it's going to happen. And anyone who listens to Rubbin is Racing knows this is old news. So we'll see if it actually comes to fruition. I still feel confident it will, and I think it's great. I think more manufacturers, the better. I don't necessarily agree with the fact that NASCAR has indicated they're willing to consider increasing the current field size in the Truck Series to make room for these Ram trucks. But I would prefer if one of these existing manufacturers just aligned with them, hopefully got a little bit more of an edge or leveled the playing field. But this truck race we saw last week, or I guess Friday, was so good until it wasn't. And I was really enjoying the race. Quiggs even tweeted about how awesome it was. I couldn't agree more. Awesome lead changes up front, very competitive, a lot of parity in that race. However, cautions breed cautions. One caution came out, and then they just kept fucking wrecking. I don't know that the answer in the lowest, I shouldn't say the low, but the Truck Series is to add more young truck drivers who will probably do more of the same. Like I said, my hope is that an existing team they become a Ram team, and hopefully they can become more competitive and compete for championships. I think that's the best course of action.
It makes sense too. It just sounds good, right? To have Ram back in the Truck Series. Yeah. I mean, when it says that Honda is entering the Cup Series, and again, nothing confirmed. It's just, it all started with a Spidey scoop right around preseason, and it looks like it's coming to fruition perhaps within the next couple of weeks, according to most sources. Honda seems a little bit, more out of place there, right? But like Ram in the Truck Series, I don't know why.
I honestly
gassed up for it.
I think it makes perfect sense. Sorry, Quiggs, I want to hear what you have to say.
Probably what you were about to say. I was gonna say, if any manufacturer can have just the Truck Series and not make it up to Cup, Ram is the perfect one.
I agree.
It makes sense for them to just spend the money on the Truck Series.
Did they even make? I know Dodge and Ram is basically the same car company.
They make at least SUVs. They have the Durango.
Right. As far as I know, the sedans that Dodge was making, they rebranded them all to electric, and now everyone's up in arms because they killed the American muscle cars.
Oh yeah, Dodge Charger stuff like that.
Right. It has an electric exhaust.
The Dodge Charger is so dumb.
It just has a speaker underneath the rear bumper, and it plays fake exhaust sounds. Yeah. So honestly, I think this is as good as Dodge Ram. I keep saying Dodge Ram. This is the best that Ram could do. Their trucks are kind of iconic. Moon had tweeted a photo of the haulers making their way to Mexico City this week, or I guess yesterday, and they're being protected by the Mexican army that is driving around in Dodge Ram pickup trucks with turrets mounted to the back. So if they're good enough for Mexican authorities, I love the fact that they're going to be included. And I don't really obviously think of cars anymore when I think of that car brand. However, on the flip side, when you think of Honda, I'm thinking of like the Accord, the fucking Civic. So
Right.
like I think it plays for them to be in the Cup Series, and I think it plays for Ram to be in the Truck Series. I think both are wins, and I'll be interested to see what team kind of realigns with Honda should they go through with this and enter the sport. I think we've talked about this previously. I would like to see a team like Trackhouse become a flagship team for a new manufacturer. Right now, I feel like they're kind of down on the Chevy totem pole a little bit. There's some other teams in front of them, obviously Hendrick. And I think they might be able to regain that kind of edge they had in this next gen car should they be the main priority of a new manufacturer. But what do I know? That would be what I would like to see come to fruition, though.
We probably won't see Legacy make another switch, right? I mean, they've already made their switch manufacturers, so we probably won't see that. I think Trackhouse probably makes the most sense as being one of the bigger ones to do it. I know some of the other guys can, fall in line or join suit, but I think that would be the splashiest.
Single team car, Ricky Stenhouse, put him in a Honda. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. It's not as sexy to be like Cole Custer will be the sole Honda driver.
They're going to need one solid team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see, one, if this actually happens, and two, who they would be interested in aligning with. But I think it's a good opportunity for whatever team.
And since I just from an optics standpoint, it just makes sense just because they've been there before. It's almost a familiar face. Do you have fond memories of watching Rams as a child, Moonhead? I'm talking about the cars, not the animals.
Yeah. No, I've always been a fan of like the Dodge brand as a whole, and I feel like they're good for NASCAR in any capacity. But if there was ever a brand like you guys said that could do the truck only thing, I think they're the one, because Rams are badass and they always have been, and they just fit in with like the badass truck ideas. So I'd like to see Dodge back in the Cup Series, but obviously I feel like they're in a fork in the road in what direction they want to take their vehicles. So hopefully time will tell. But I'd like to see them back in Cup. But regardless, I think the Ram deal is going to be cool. And it sounds like they're going to do some cool stuff with whatever team, because the rumor is Cletus McFarland, I guess, is going to be one of the drivers and stuff like that. So it seems like they've got a whole campaign planned, so it should be pretty cool.
I'm hoping. Let's get to the Cup race. Brisco starts on the pole again. So this is his third pole in the row. Brisco has sat on more poles than, yeah. You should pick your fucking thing. I'll just say my wife before we got married. His previous two, he finished P3 in Charlotte, P17 in Nashville. Where did Brisco come in? I mean, I know it's great to sort of, and he finished 23rd this past weekend. Are people going to start to pull, from this guy qualifies better than he races, perhaps? I don't believe that that's true. I don't believe that that's true at all. And 3 races isn't enough to tell it. But is that potentially damning for a guy like Chase Brisco, that he can, capture 3 poles in a row and not capture 3 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 3 top 20s? You know what I mean? That's, is it a worse headline than one would imagine?
I think you got to be happy with it.
Who?
What?
Chase?
Yeah, I mean, obviously not the finishing position, but I feel like if you still win the pole, like when these guys win a pole, they celebrate, let alone win 3 in a row.
Yeah, but they celebrate because it puts them in a good spot to like win the race.
Sure, but at the same time, I feel like there's opportunities. There's been races in the past where we've seen a guy maybe not qualify well, but run up front, look like they have a car that could win the race, and then finish, not even finish.
I know, but point is, been competitive.
You still have to kind of take the wins you can get.
I definitely hear you. And in a vacuum, I think that's right. But this guy is underneath a tremendous amount of scrutiny because he stepped up into a better car. And even with a win last year, we were all saying that he's going to get at least 1 win this year. And he hasn't. And that all changes if he wins this weekend. But, for a guy specifically like Chase Brisco. So, Quiggs, you seem to be on that side of the argument. Is starting on the pole and not finishing in the, in the top 10, is that more detrimental than, and complimentary, it doesn't matter how you it's not putting together a full race. And again,
Yeah.
this doesn't fall on the shoulders of Chase Briscoe. All these things happen in races, and it's only a 3-race kind of sample size. But still, can you see where people be like, fuck, who gives a shit if he's on the pole? Let's get a W.
Yeah, and I just think I could be wrong, but I don't think there was any specific events that really took him out of any of those like I think that's his car is just built to qualify, and then he hasn't been a threat in any of the races that he has had the pole at all. Like I didn't even like if you would have asked me who had the pole in Michigan, I wouldn't have been able to tell you because
Okay.
I don't remember him being up near the front ever in that race.
Yeah, and I mean P3 in Charlotte, right? We gotta yeah. So, but I don't know. I mean, believe nobody's bigger Chase Briscoe fans than us. Great guy, and I respect his talents and stuff. But I'm just wondering.
I think you guys are kind of being critical, to be
honest. He's
gotten what is one?
I didn't know that he got the P3 in
He's
Charlotte.
got 5 top 5s on the year
in
his first year in the 19 car. As you said, Large, the pressure's on. I'm certainly like there was a lot of hype, and
right.
he's expected to perform. But at this point, 3 poles, 5 top 5 finishing position, I think that's pretty solid. I mean, obviously things have not gone his way, especially when it looked like during qualifying they would have went otherwise. But I think I'm not super worried about him. I think it's a matter of time before he kind of finds his groove with Joe Gibbs Racing. And the same thing goes for Ty Gibbs. Ty finished 3rd this week, and the rest of his season has been pretty abysmal. And I think it's just another thing. I would expect Chase to pick it up sooner because obviously he has Cup Series experience. Granted, it's just with a new team this year, a better team, a better car. But Ty Gibbs, I don't know. I think earlier in the show this season, we said, I think a lot of people's reaction to Chase Briscoe is going to be it's going to be tied to Ty Gibbs' performance. I think there's a conversation to be had there about both of them kind of going about this season in similar ways. But I think Ty Gibbs is going to turn it around, and I think that's evidenced by his P3 finish this week. And credit to me, I think it was the Zane Smith top 10 I gave out, which did cash.
Yeah. Didn't you had Denny too, didn't you?
I had Denny as well. Yep. Also, these people telling me and I know it's like a long running bit on this show, but I think Twitter is honestly kind of serious when they say this, that I take every driver. I don't know how many motorsports handicappers, not that I'm even really one of them. Like, I'm very casual in terms of that.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone I follow has 5 drivers at least per race. And somehow I'm the guy that takes every driver. Like, don't get me wrong. If it's a super speedway track, I will add more drivers as an insurance policy. But some of these guys' cards, you got to scroll and scroll and scroll. It's like, but I'm the bad guy. Crazy.
Yeah, you got pigeonholed because the one time I think it was one of those things where you were like, had one of those ridiculously big cards, but that's all that people remember.
Sometimes the bit just goes over people's head,
It does. Yeah, I hear you. Like this whole SVG thing. People are convinced I hate the guy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's all over my card this week. Get into the race. Busher, Byron, Hamlin, stage 1. Oh, then Bowman had that big crash. I asked Jeff Gordon about it. You'll have to wait and listen to see what he'd said. Spider, it was you who hit me right beforehand because we kind of powwow beforehand. You're like, I really want to know about Bowman. No better person to ask other than Alex Bowman than probably Jeff Gordon. So you get that name in a second.
Yeah.
But when he said shit on the air, which I don't know if people have a problem with, I just continually find that stuff refreshing to hear people cursing on the air during the broadcast for some reason. But Bowman looked fucked up. Like his eyes weren't focusing and stuff. And when you see that crash, that was bad. I can't even find a better adjective to say.
That one was one that
where you're like, show the angle to see if the net's down.
Well, that's the first thing I look for.
Yeah.
Like, I hope his net's down. That was crazy hard hit. Probably one of the hardest I've seen that I can remember. And it just sucks. Like, he's a guy that's had concussion issues in the past. And then you take a big hit like that. Like, that's probably the last guy in the field that I would have, seen that coming for. So not great. and he's been having some bad luck too. So hopefully he's fine, and hopefully he's in Mexico City this week, and not has any lingering
Yeah, is there
effects.
talks of him not racing in this?
You'll have to stay tuned.
Oh,
Stay tuned for
Got
the
the whole
interview.
fucking
Yep.
skinny from. I don't want to. I'm not burying the lead here, but Jeff Gordon coming up in just a couple seconds.
let's go.
One of the things that I thought was cool was, I don't know if it was Reddick spotter, I think it was, which would be Netflix Nick, right? I think.
Yep, Nick Payne. Shout
Yeah.
out Nick.
He said, "Watch out for this guy," and then the booth didn't know, because if it was Reddick that had said it, the booth didn't know who they were talking about, because Reddick was stuck in between Ross and Hosvar. And they were like, which one of them is more dangerous on the track? So Hosvar continues to sort of outperform. People are very, obviously he's in the crosshairs, the spotlight, and everything else that you can use at Nashville, which is good for the kid. I'm sure his merch sales must be going through the roof too, right, Spud?
I mean, I bought that Chili shirt, so yeah, I'm moving the needle.
Yeah, you certainly
One
do.
shirt should do it.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, but like, even if there's probably some guys in the field that sell so little merch, no offense, and I'm not going to name names, but
Okay.
like, I got to think he certainly ascended in that race this year. I mean,
I'd be
running
shocked
so
if he
good.
wasn't top 20.
He's a guy that I feel like if someone asked me like, hey, I'm just becoming a NASCAR fan, who's some drivers I should root for? He would be included in that. Young kid. I think he's got a bright future, a lot of potential. He's a good prospect. So, I mean, is he even a prospect? That might be unfair to call him that. But you know what I'm trying to say. Like,
Yeah.
if you had to buy stock in a guy, I think he's a safe bet.
Wow, you just went to my old fucking talking, right? Buy, sell, or hold, Carson Hosvar.
Yeah.
I said top 20. That's probably an ignorant thing to say. If you just did Cup Series drivers, because we had seen the top 10 last week, I had mentioned how Larson had overtook Chase Elliott as the number one merch seller. But Junior was in there, Senior was in there, Allgaier was in there. So kind of take those out and just stick with the Cup guys. I think Hosvar is probably top 10 in merch, or close to it.
I would say he's probably right on the fence there, maybe like 12.
Yeah, like right around that. And that's extraordinary for a guy who's in his sophomore season.
And a guy that's seemingly hated by everyone he works with.
Yeah.
Like the rest of the drivers. I mean, not necessarily his team. I would assume they like him, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like
not that the drivers are the ones buying the merch, but it's still kind of a funny dichotomy, if I use that word correctly.
No, I like it. And even when I take notes during the fucking race, I'm having more fun doing it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just wrote that down just because I heard it out of the corner of my ear. And I just think everything about this coverage has been so much more positive. Like, even when they ran over the squirrel, I was watching that pit cycle, and I said to Annie, I was watching with Annie and Bridge, and I was like, oh my God, a mouse just ran by. And the camera moved away, so we didn't get to see the squirrel side that had happened on the track, which isn't a huge fucking deal. Obviously, nobody cares, but Ty Dillon had killed a squirrel. All that stuff is, I don't know, it's just adding to the allure of this Amazon coverage. Maybe I'm done blowing them, but we'll get back to them in a couple seconds. Byron Cindric Hosvar for stage 2. Hosvar was in the mix for most of the race. And then after leading only 7 laps, Denny gets his 3rd win of the season, his 3rd at Michigan, became only the 10th to get a win after 700 starts. Did the whole beat your favorite driver thing, which didn't come off that well because the reporter who was down there with him doing the interview had thought he said he beat his dad's favorite driver because his dad had told him to stop using that fucking thing. So it got a little bit clunky. And then he did that, around on the ends, high in the middle type shit, Ohio, in front of the Michigan crowd just to get him riled up.
Tate
I love
it.
the fact that he's still doing this shit.
I hate the Ohio stuff.
Oh, you do?
I think
He just started it like,
He's an absolute
this
bandwagon
year.
fan. Yeah.
which is fine. Like, if you don't have a team, you can pick up a team.
course.
You can't be.
Is it?
I don't
fine?
think they've played a game since he's become a fan, and he's like trolling them.
My problem with it is I go back to the Miami vlog at the end of last season. Denny told me on camera that I just root for whatever driver's up front. He does the same in college football. What I will say, I'll compliment him. He's an elite heel. Like, if he wasn't in NASCAR, he should be in WWE. It took me a minute to realize that he was doing that OHIO in front of a bunch of Michigan fans, probably in the Irish Hills of Michigan. So kind of just dunking on the Buckeye or on the blue, I guess. So I thought it was fine. I do kind of agree with Quiggs. It's like, dude, you just like this is
Yeah, like he has a tweet that somebody like asked him why, and he's like, "Oh, I went to the national championship with my friend who's a big Ohio State," which I've done that, but you be the fan for 3 hours and then you kind of drop it and be like, "Yes, I'm not my team. I'm not a super fan."
But it's chess, right? Like it's brilliant. He'd said on Actions this week, I listened to Actions Detrimental, and he was like, I have people convinced that I'm a lifelong fan of Ohio State. He's like, I just got good seats. Yeah, honestly, like he's to Spider's point, it's a perfect fucking troll job.
Yeah, I guess he is. I guess he's trolling me and it's working.
Yeah.
Kind of like Dave. Like how Dave will pick up the other side just to fuck with Rico, or you know what I mean? Like that type of stuff.
Yeah.
It's a skill set. I don't fucking have it because people look right through it, but I think Denny's got everybody kind of beat. He passed Kyle Busch as the winningest driver in Joe Gibbs racing history. Big fucking,
that's pretty good.
Yeah, he's crossing some shit off the list pretty quickly.
Sounds like he might be, sorry to interrupt, might be crossing off Mexico on the list. I don't know if you saw that large.
Yeah.
If his wife Jordan has not had the baby before it's time for him to leave to Mexico, he said he's not going. So it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, I would love to see Denny in Mexico City, especially fresh off a win, keep that momentum going. But at the same time, family first.
They should have the baby in Mexico, become a citizen.
That would be cool.
Dual citizenship.
Yeah.
Just mix it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was a wild thing for him to say. Also, I admire it, right? Saying that he's putting family above racing.
So what do you think's wild about it?
We're taping this on Wednesday at 3:00. People are leaving for Mexico on Thursday. I think drivers are leaving for Mexico on Thursday. So if Jordan, his fiance, doesn't give birth before then, he's not going to the race. I don't, what do I find wild about it? Because it's Mexico City. If we were racing in Michigan, would he have gone if she didn't go yet? Like, it's not that difficult to get back from Mexico City. Again, it's the fucking biggest city in North America. I think that, it's not like you're stuck out in, the Amazon jungle. I don't, do you know what I mean? Like, because if she doesn't go before he leaves on Thursday, and then she goes on Wednesday of next week, do you think there's a certain degree of regret that he didn't go and fucking race in Mexico?
Honestly, no. I'm going to play devil's advocate.
No, please.
He's got 3 wins. He punched himself into the playoffs. And he also has a waiver. This is an excused absence. NASCAR's not going to give him a hard time about playoffs or anything like that. So I respect it. You know what I mean? And honestly, it seems like a good little, probably a nice little reset. I know obviously he's got a lot of shit going on in his personal life. It's not like he's going to be on vacation, but it's probably nice to have a little bit of time away and kind of break the mold that you do 36 weeks in a row, week after week after week.
If she doesn't go by Friday next week, should he skip Pocono?
No.
You can't skip Pocono. That's
because you're racist.
That's a win for him.
Yeah, but also it's like that's an easy trip. Mexico, I don't think is easy as you made it sound.
Mexico has to be the hardest trip of the season.
There's bad weather coming, large. You got to go through customs. There's a whole bunch of shit that goes along with it.
Yeah, we kind of let you just slide with that one.
I'm saying he's Denny fucking Hamlin. Right?
No, I know you get a
plane
PJ
and he's going across the Gulf of America back to the fucking hospital. I mean, it's tough to get in and out of Mexico when you're fucking large, right? When you're Quigs. Denny Hamlin could have a fucking chopper there that would bring him, someplace very. I don't know. I don't dislike the move. I'm not saying that. As a matter of fact, I admire it a lot. It just seemed kind of shocking to me because I don't know, because if he went all the way down there and started to do that stuff, and then she, her water broke on Saturday, then it was all for nothing and he's got to come back. I could see that it'd be a fucking real pain in the ass. Yeah, I guess I'm going to change my mind. He shouldn't go to fucking Mexico. Dale Earnhardt Jr. just tweeted out, because his dad can't tweet, planned flight to Mexico City apparently is in Singapore, stuck in maintenance. I will need to find alternative solutions. So Dale Jr. can't get to fucking Mexico. So maybe you guys are right and I'm wrong. Right?
Wait, what you said before that you read the tweet threw me off.
I said Dale Earnhardt just tweeted this. Then I said Dale Earnhardt Jr. His dad can't tweet.
Got that part.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So that's the whole thing. So Dale's having a problem getting down there, but again, it's only Wednesday, so it's no harm, no foul for the most part. I'm sure he has a ton of shit set up. either way, we wish him the best of fucking luck, right? I mean, that's the whole deal. He's about to have a little baby boy, and it's going to change everything. I put the leaderboard in there just because I think it's kind of cool. We see, Chris Buescher getting a P2 quietly. I don't think they even interviewed Buescher afterwards. I don't know if Buescher, had to drive the hauler to Mexico or whatever, but they didn't get to talk to him. But to your point, Ty Gibbs coming in P3, great for Ty Gibbs. He was upset, saying that with the fuel mileage, everyone was saying pull back, and he was a little bit upset about it afterwards. Some people had said that they didn't like that look on him, but I like the fact that the kid was disappointed that he wasn't competing for a win when he probably could have. Bubba with a P4, Kyle Larson, Ross Chastain, Zane Smith with a P7. Spider, you've been pretty high on Zane Smith lately.
Yeah,
right?
I think he's been running really well. I think he's been kind of the best front row car this year, and that's just off kind of no data or stats in front of me, but just off what I feel like I remember seeing. And yeah, I'm a big Zane Smith fan. I think he's probably kind of starting to figure it out a little bit. Not to say he didn't last year. We saw, what was it? I think he finished second at Nashville, and again, that was kind of some chaos going on in that race. But yeah, high on Zane Smith. Buy, sell, hold Zane Smith. I'm buying every day.
I love it. And then Kyle Busch, P8, and Ryan Preece and Brad Keselowski rounding out the top 10. But Chris Buescher second. I had him as best Ford, by the way. No big deal. Ryan Preece ninth and Brad Keselowski in P10. This is the first time they've had 3 cars finish in the top 10 since 2016. I mean, that's great. It's great for it. It's nice to see Brad get into the top 10 too, although he seemed relatively invisible during the broadcast. Didn't see too much going on with the Brad. Maybe he should have ran over a fucking squirrel. I had to bring my family back down to life because Hosvar being out there, for the lead with 20 laps to go, there's no way he was finishing that fucking race. Right? He just didn't have the gas. And obviously he blew a tire, cut a tire. It didn't really mean as much as it seemed like it did on TV because that, the kid just wouldn't have made it there. Same thing with Byron. Byron just couldn't have made it there. And the reason I kind of knew that is because Amazon had that burn meter. I fucking love that thing.
Yeah.
I love that thing showing how, a kid who was out front, like again, second year in Cup Series, how he's burning so much more than these wise veterans who are behind him conserving fuel. The little things that they've been adding have been absolute home runs. Is that something that's brand new? I've never seen that before. Have you guys seen anything like that?
They've done like fuel estimate stuff before, I think. Maybe even in other races series, I don't know. But I don't know if I not trust that it's real.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But I don't know how much real information you're getting from it.
Yeah.
Because it'll just be 4.2 miles per gallon, and then the guy who's burning will switch, and it'll be
here's my thing.
But I do like it. It more lets the announcers talk about the fuel situation.
Yeah.
I just can never tell when the broadcast starts talking about fuel if they're just saying that to retain the audience in a decided race or if it's truly a concern. A lot of times I feel like they just play up that someone's going to run out of gas because they want people to the race is clearly decided and they just want it to be, dramatic and exciting and keep the audience captivated. But then again, you see guys I think it was Byron ran out of fuel there at the end.
Yeah.
So I think there is I think it is more, but I'm with Quiggs. I am skeptical of it, but then you see like I said, Byron pull off the track out of fuel and you're like, maybe there is something to it.
Yeah. I loved it. I think it's just a nice little nuance. And now Quiggs has me doubting it. You know what I mean? Like they're just putting it out.
I'm never going to be able to look at that thing.
Next time it comes up, actually watch it and be like, is this really telling me anything?
Yeah.
Because it would be just easier if it was just a straight up fuel gauge, be this is how much they have left, but it's real time burn, but it also seems like it only updates every 10 seconds.
Yeah. And I'm just a cat with a fucking laser pointer. I'm just distracted.
Yeah, no, it gets me. I like looking at it. But
at the end of the day, we got a hell of a fucking race, right? I mean, we can all agree. And I think on Gluck's poll, it maybe 92% or something, which is pretty high, obviously. So I think we had gotten another great race. So
Michigan's awesome.
Yeah. But I mean, the racing for this car, for the Gen 7 car on that track, it seems like it's tailored to it. So we're never going to have a championship race there because I've been to Michigan in November and it sucks. But otherwise, Moon, had any reflections from the race? Was there anything that jumped out at you before we move on just a little bit? Like, what did you see in Michigan?
Not to glaze the broadcast too much, but
Okay.
I was really, really, really happy with the broadcast because Michigan, I feel like, was the test for me, because Nashville was a night race in Nashville. You can make that seem like a big deal, but Michigan's not really one I've ever fired up the grill for, or felt was a huge race. I mean, obviously it can put on a good show. But I felt like that kind of changed this weekend. Like the end of that race with the fuel mileage, it felt like I was watching an Indy 500 or something, but it was just a Michigan race. So
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. And then overall, I thought the racing was way better than I anticipated, and honestly better than years past. In my opinion, that was probably the best next gen race of the best Michigan race of the next gen era. So 2 thumbs up from me. I'm a big Michigan fan again.
Spider, did you go?
I did not end up going.
Okay.
Sounds like Morgan had they needed some more time to finalize their media schedule. So hopefully we'll be able to join them for a race here in the near future. But did not go this weekend. I would have loved to. I love Michigan, and obviously looked like a great race. And Morgan driver Frankie Muniz finished 14th, which is pretty good for him. No disrespect, but that's great. So pretty impressed. We'll wish him well, and hopefully we'll catch him on the show here soon.
To stop the glazing that we said, can you guys figure out if there's anything that's wrong with this Amazon broadcast? Does anything stick out to you as something that they could improve on? People.
I guess the burn bar, but I don't even hate it. I said what I said already. I guess that would.
But you doubt it, but you don't hate it. So I don't think it should be changed.
It's just I don't know if it's really giving you any actual real useful information.
That's a good one. I like it. Anybody else? Do you have anything?
But don't get rid of the burn bar. I like the burn bar.
If they get rid of the burn bar because they hear this,
I'm not taking the fall. I don't want them to get rid of the burn bar.
You fucking prick. You already got me on the geography thing flying from Mexico. Go fuck yourself, the burn bar. Go ahead.
Which this isn't even like a real complaint, but something that gets me is something else. Some big. Oh, it was the tennis match. The Roland Garros final.
Uh-huh.
Great match, and it went super long, and there was overlap between the NASCAR race and the tennis match, and you can't do the previous channel, go back and forth because you're on the Prime app, and you could say get another TV, but I was going off one that day, but that kind of sucks.
Right. So not good for pores.
Yeah.
Spider, anything do you have any kind? I have one. So that's why I'm asking the question.
Mine would just be it is a pet peeve of mine when the broadcast kind of gaslights the audience into thinking that the whole field is out of fuel and has, one lap to go. But again, as I just said, I didn't really feel that way just yet. And Amazon, we're pretty much halfway through their programming, and as long as they don't do that, I don't really have any other complaints. I think they do a great job. So yeah, I've been happy with everything. I was a little bit skeptical at the end, like I said, that they were just leading us to believe that everyone was going to run out of fuel when one or two drivers might have. I mean, people came down and pitted, but I think Byron was the only guy that actually kind of ran out.
They always, no matter what broadcast, always, I feel underestimate the amount of fuel the guys have.
Remember they had Joey, I go back to the Joey Logano race. Where was that at? Was that at Vegas?
When last year?
When he just pulled, he was out of fuel for
everybody
20
else
laps.
was out.
That must have been Nashville last year.
Wherever it was. But that's my point. They do this thing. Every network is guilty of it, where they're just they're out of fuel. Then Joey Logano stays on track for 25 laps more than what we thought and somehow gets the win. So that didn't necessarily happen this week, but that would be my skepticism with the Amazon broadcast thus far.
Moon, you got anything wrong with this?
The front stretch interview has got to go. I hate it. I threw a fit on Twitter, so I'm not going to go on the whole rant, but that's not an Amazon specific thing. I just hate that.
I hear you. You know what I'm going to say? Carl Edwards and Corey LaJoy, slightly bigger pants. Don't you think? I could see their fucking heartbeat in those things. You know what I mean? Danielle Danielle Trotta, very, I like the cut of her jib. I'll say that as respectfully as possible. A beautiful woman. She always looks fantastic. And then it's like Magic Mike next to her. I'm not, do you guys notice? I tend to wear tight pants because I have a gigantic cock and very nice legs also, but it's not something that I think I would do if I was on the, like, honestly, they look like somebody had to help them get into it. And maybe that brings eyes to the race, but not for me.
I thought it was funny. LaJoy almost ended up winning the truck race after all the things that have been said. And, that would have been funny to see how he kind of dealt with that. But that was just more reason to enjoy the truck race. It was cool to see him running up front and in contention for a win there at the end. But I haven't really noticed anything on their pants.
Maybe it's just me. I'm a dick watcher. So let's go backwards 1 second because of the Denny thing. If Mexico City was an oval and if he didn't win the previous week, do you think he'd go to Mexico? If Jordan didn't give birth?
Say it again. If he
this
didn't
weekend
win?
Was at an oval in Mexico City.
Yep.
And if Denny finished P3 last weekend, do you think he would then go to Mexico? Or is because he's coming off of a win, his third win of the year, so he got a little bit of a cushion, and he's going to a road course which he's traditionally not dominant on? You think that plays into it?
I don't. I think he would have missed as well.
I think you're just like not allowed to skip your wife's like delivery. People just think you're a dickhead if you like do anything other than go to that.
I have. Fuck it. You're on your own, right? I did enough.
Yeah, you've had enough.
And I just hadn't gone through.
I will not be attending mine.
I would love to not attend.
Yeah,
I don't want to see none of that shit.
I was at 2 of the 3 of mine, and it's not pretty.
Yeah.
If they give you a chance to stay on the other side of the wall, stay on the other fucking side of the wall for that thing. I can tell you that much. That's a different podcast. All right, so we're wrapped up with we're about to go to Mexico. Let's put a bow on last week, and let's go 3 wide with Jeff Gordon. Hey, everybody. So as promised, we have a very special guest here today. You just probably know him from Hollywood. He did a cameo appearance in Looney Tunes Back in Action back in 2003. It was a big one for me. He was the voice of Jeff Gorvette in Cars 2 and I believe Cars 3 also. And now he's a big Hollywood executive producer. His latest project is American Thunder, which will have already dropped. We'll be dropping this on Friday, so it will already have dropped on the 12th. And you can catch it exclusively on Amazon Prime. And it tells all about the story of when NASCAR went over and competed in the 24-hour of, how am I pronouncing this now, Jeff Gordon?
Le Mans.
As Le Mans, is that one of those things where people...
That's the American version.
It is, but when you say Jeff Gordon is pronouncing it Le Mans, is that the same way as I sometimes say mozzarella? And people get mad at you, or is it okay?
Exactly. It's like Ibiza.
Yes,
same,
exactly.
Same kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, my wife is Belgian, so she speaks Flemish and French, so she's going to make sure I don't, screw it up. But if you also spend enough time, which I did, because I went to Le Mans a couple of times, once the year before the race that we competed in, and then when we were there, you just hear enough other people say it, and you kind of stick.
You just kind of grab onto it. I should also mention that he also won 4 Cup Series championships. So it's Jeff Gordon. So we've been lucky enough to have you on this show, I believe, 2 times prior. So I just want to say from the outset how much we enjoy or appreciate that you carve out time for us, particularly when you're in the New York area.
I appreciate it. I love coming to New York, love the city, but love sitting down, with people that are passionate about racing like I am and have the understanding of the sport like you do. So, sometimes I'll go in an interview where I'm going to be educating, and other times we're just going to be talking racing. This is one of those times.
I'm going to actually have you educate me, because one of the mindsets that I never really got, and I still don't get, is that, most recently the Kyle Larson mindset of trying to do the double, of trying to go and excel in other arenas, as opposed to just owning the arena that you're in, the arena that pays your bills, the arena where you get cut checks. I don't like it in boxing where a middleweight says, I think I can win a super middleweight strap. I think, if fight, kind of play within it. And this whole documentary is exactly that. It's about just a bunch of guys who love to drive have seen Le Mans around for, since the beginning of time. And they said, you know what? I want to go fucking do that. Why do you guys do that?
Well, first of all, it was foreign to me as well. I mean, I was one that came from, every driver comes from different backgrounds of racing. Not everybody necessarily hops straight into a stock car and becomes a NASCAR driver. Mm-hmm. Not everybody hops in an Indy car and becomes an IndyCar driver. You drive all kinds of different race cars. But once you get to the pinnacle, such as the Cup Series, for me, it was really about just focusing on that. But not everybody is Kyle Larson. And Kyle Larson's a guy that, dirt racing and getting into other cars, midget sprint cars, late models, is something that he's very passionate about. When he came to Hendrick Motorsports, one of the very first ththings that he said to me is, I would love to do Indy one day. I think it was something that his father introduced him to. He was passionate about the Indy 500 as a kid. I get that. I was too. I kind of got to live out my dreams at Indianapolis through the Brickyard 400. And so I think Kyle, he said, man, I would love to race this race one day. If that's possible to do, let's talk about it. And so, it took some convincing to Rick Hendrick to really get on board with it. And we made it happen with Arrow McLaren and Chevrolet and everything else, Hendrick cars. But it is a tall task. Just the weather and logistics itself make it very, very challenging. But I'll be honest, from a perspective of being able to actually race the car and be competitive, Kyle did phenomenal in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that guy is a wheelman.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's no doubt in the world that he is. But I don't know if he walks away from our sport that I love, Cup Series racing, without winning 5 or 6 championships, because he goes on to do something else. That would ruin me. Like, that's my whole thing. Like, sometimes you're like, I'm just going to dance with her one time, and the next thing you know, you're telling your wife, I'm leaving you. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
like, there's so many other things.
Yeah, you have to put yourself in Kyle's shoes. I think Kyle, while he loves winning sprint car races and he loves winning Cup Series races, I think he himself feels this way, and he wants others to recognize it, of being one of the greatest race car drivers of all time. And I think when you compare yourself to Mario Andretti or AJ Foyt or Michael Schumacher or whoever, you kind of feel like you have to go and compete and win in a lot of different series. I mean, he's won the 24 Hours of Daytona. He's won the biggest races in sprint car, the Knoxville National. He hasn't won the Daytona 500, but he's won a championship and Cup. So if you're kind of in that mindset, why not win the Indy 500?
I guess.
And so I don't know that it can be done by trying to do it this way. The double is it's difficult. You're in the middle of your season, and you're stepping into an arena that others are have been doing all season long and perfectionists at it. But I could see him doing it, someday down the road if he feels like he's still in his prime, but not doing it as the double.
Right. I sometimes just think of also the liability from an injury standpoint. I spoke with Chase Elliott at the beginning of the season. He and Bubba were nice enough to come to our Chicago office right before the season started. And I said, did they change your contract to say no more snowboarding? Like that type of stuff. And then obviously we've seen some of your drivers, like Chase, but Bowman, who had gotten hurt outside of a Cup car. I think he was driving dirt when he had his injury.
Car,
right?
Yeah.
It just seems like so much of a liability, which brings up something that I'd like to get an update from you. How is Alex doing? Because watching that race, that was a spectacular hit. Yeah. And when he came out of the infield care center, my wife and I were watching the race with our daughter, and it just seemed like the kid his cage was rattled. Yeah. How's he doing now?
Well, first, going back to what you previously said, for me, when I was racing Cup every single weekend, to get into a different vehicle, I thought about the safety aspect of it or the potential of injury. I think when you're Kyle Larson and guys that race multiple different series, Kyle Busch is another example. I don't think that that's the way they look at it. I don't think they look at it like they're taking additional risk. It's just, hey, I want to get in a race car. I've got a good opportunity, and I want to go win, and they're focused on that. As far as Alex is concerned, we were all very, worried when we saw that impact. Huge impact. Haven't seen a hit like that long time. Shows you the safety of these cars, how far things have come.
It's
safer
unbelievable.
barrier.
Yeah.
So first and foremost was great to see or hear him on the radio say he was okay. Then he pulls the window net down and gets out of the car. So that was amazing. It was a hard hit. When you hit like that, and I've had a similar hit to that in Las Vegas many years ago, and you're going to feel it, that day and the next day and for days after that. The question is he, good to get in the car? Does he feel good enough to get in the car for Mexico City? And as of right now, everything is on schedule.
Good. Even though I know for a fact he loves mezcal. So if he goes down to Mexico, like that's right. Concussion protocol with a little bit of tequila mixed in normally doesn't work in his favor. Because I was so ignorant with some of the players outside of NASCAR, watching American Thunder, which again is on Amazon Prime right now, you fall in love with a guy like Mike Rockefeller.
That's exactly what I have said. This is guy that you can't help but just
for people
love.
Listening at home before Jeff, I open up a bottle of wine just because it's one of those days for me. Jeff, I would pour you a glass either now or sometime after this, but I just love the fact that I'm sitting in a room just talking to you about 24-hour Le Mans.
I don't know if you, exactly.
Yeah.
It does fit the
very
conversation.
French. Yes, it is.
Love red wine, love Camus. So maybe not yet, but my day is about to end, and when it does, I would love to join you. Are we
Rockefeller.
I was going to say, are we okay? Can we move into American Thunder?
Yes, please.
So first of all, we had three amazing drivers, right, that became a part of this program. Of course, everybody knows 7-time champion Jimmy Johnson, Formula One champion Jenson Button, and then Mike Rockefeller, who is a 24 Hours of Le Mans champion. But he was really... Like he and Jordan Taylor, these were the guys that developed the car. These were the guys that were in the simulator. These were the guys that critiqued every aspect of the car, the tire, went through all the long test days and really did the grunt of the work. And Mike, when I first met him, I mean, these were like his exact words. I think we were at the simulator, and I met him briefly prior to this, but this is the first time I really worked with him. Mm-hmm. And he's like, it's not even close. The car's way off. We're never going to get there. This is going to be embarrassing. I was
and you have 300 days to
I'm
go.
like, 200 maybe. I was like, oh my God. Okay, sure. I don't know. I don't know what a sports car feels like or what the lap times we're trying to accomplish. And we're doing it in simulation. And then the first time we go to the track, it's not a whole lot different. It's, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. So at first I was like, man, this guy complains a lot. and so my favorite part to wrap this up, and everybody who watches American Thunder, you can't help but just like this guy, but you also have to respect him of what he's accomplished in the car, in his own career, and throughout this journey for taking NASCAR to Le Mans. But I remember showing up at Le Mans the first time I saw him, and he'd been on track, and I go up to him, I'm like, and I was afraid to ask. I was like, I don't know how this is going to go. I'm like, so how's the car? He said, Jeff, it's beautiful. It's perfect. It's amazing. And I realized right then, I'm like, okay, like this guy was on a mission of, we cannot be content. We can never stop getting this car to the absolute best. And it's probably what's made him one of the greatest race car drivers of all time, but certainly what made this project a major factor of making it successful.
And he was irreplaceable, because I know that, and Jenson did a fantastic job, but I think having a guy like Mike from day one there, because Jenson had showed up, wore like the too small fire suit to Jimmy because he's a lot taller than Jimmy and whatnot. It really was.
I mean, let's be honest. Jenson's an amazing race car driver, and he proved it in this. Yeah. But he's a retired race car driver. Yeah. Jimmy Johnson, basically a retired race car driver. Mike Rockefeller, while he could retire if he wanted to, he's still in it. He's still. But he also has the experience necessary to race Le Mans, know what it takes to be competitive at Le Mans, and that was something that Jenson nor Jimmy had.
Will they be doing that again? I mean, I know we're queuing in on 2023. Is it something where you get that same crew back together again all the time? Chad's like, yeah, I'll do it again.
I mean,
because it took years off some people's lives.
Sure.
Once the rain started to come down in the dark, people were like, what the fuck? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, Garage 56 is a very unique and special invitation only class, right? And so while we're competing for America, we're competing for speed versus the GT cars and wanting, to just go make an impression and bring more eyeballs to NASCAR as well as Le Mans. It's not really something that you do again necessarily.
Okay. Yeah, because you'd have to wait another 100 years for it to be like something special. For a guy like Chad, who is the greatest, crew chief of all time, do you think that skill set allowed him to go over and essentially crew chief at Le Mans almost seamlessly? Is that one of those things where the drivers almost had a bigger hurdle than Chad, you would think, for that thing?
So then, I would put Chad in the same category as Mike, in my opinion, of you get to see what a perfectionist Chad is. You see why, he's been so successful in his career, what made him a 7-time champion, why he's, heading up the competition department of Hendrick Motorsports. I mean, this guy, when you put him on a project like this, where logistically putting the right engineers and drivers and the whole team developing the car, like he has this incredible capability of handling all that and taking it to the next level. And again, I don't think this project is successful without Chad and without Mike Rockenfeller. I mean, it took a lot of people. It took a lot of other, but those two, I think, are the ones in this documentary really stand out.
Yeah, it's integral. As a guy who's extremely old, like you, I'm just kidding. For two older guys like us, just compared to some of these kids now who are racing at 6-7 years old, and you've been around NASCAR for a long time, how do you see the sport in general? Because we just had an absolute banger of a documentary with Earnhardt, and sort of people who are watching that for the first time. I have a guy who covers hockey for us here at Barstool, and he was like, Lars, this is awesome. Do you mind if I write a blog on it? I'm like, please go right ahead.
Isn't it good? Yeah.
Very, very impactful. You have this, which I think is eye-opening to a lot of people who just aren't familiar with what you guys had accomplished at Le Mans. You also have the F1 movie coming out. So just motorsports in general. How do you see it in the history that you've had with motorsports? Where do you see this right now as opposed to the peak of popularity or the trough of non-popularity?
Yeah, and I'll even go back further than that because I've been getting asked this a lot lately about Days of Thunder too, right?
Yes,
and and when I came into NASCAR in the early 90s, Days of Thunder had just come out. NASCAR's going to Indianapolis. There's new tracks being built. It just seemed like everything was lining up to have this explosion. You had Earnhardt and his fan base, and you had Darrell Waltrip and Rusty Wallace, and then here comes this kid from California, and the commercialization of the sport and just new opportunities, and it just everything took off. And we want to compare ourselves to that time. And the Earnhardt docuseries, which I think is phenomenal because it just takes you on this journey, right? You've got this unbelievable personality, and he was true to it, by the way. Like when his nickname is Intimidator, I mean, he put his arm around your neck and squeezed, and you were like, are we about to fight?
Yeah,
then you go on the racetrack and he'd
Yeah.
knock you out of the way without even thinking about it. And he was a great champion and all these other things. So I guess I then take that to today. Where are we, right? I think that we got a little bit complacent. I think we had a lot of change. In particular, some key personalities and stars in the sport from Tony Stewart and Carl Edwards and Rusty Wallace and Mark Martin, myself and Dale Jarrett and all these guys that fans are really kind of built their following through some of these personalities and names and faces that are very well known, right? Then you got Matt Kenseth and then Dale Jr. and Jimmy Johnson. You just had a ton of star power leave in like a 5-6 year period.
Right.
And in every other sport, when that, when somebody leaves, somebody else is kind of coming along.
Backfilling.
And it's just very, very difficult, I think, on NASCAR to backfill it quick enough. Even though we have amazing superstars, very talented drivers, and are very capable of taking the sport to the next level, I think that we've got to have these magical moments like Days of Thunder and like the explosion of new markets that we had. I think we're on the cusp of it, right? We're on the streets in Chicago. We're going to Mexico City. This car offers up a lot of great racing opportunities. We've got Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott and William Byron. Look how he's breaking out. Ryan Blaney, and yet you have Denny Hamlin, who's kind of the Earnhardt, I guess, in a way, right? And so I think we have a lot of good things happening for us, but we got to double down on getting these guys well known, popular names and faces to everybody, whether they're fans, new fans. Like, I go everywhere today, and I love it, but it breaks my heart at the same time, because I have fans come up to me, well, when you stopped driving, I stopped watching, or, hey, I might not know much about NASCAR, but I know who Jeff Gordon is. And I want that for our guys today, because it was an amazing time to live through, but there's also no reason why we can't be that.
One of the things that stood out to me, particularly with the Earnhardt documentary, was just how cool it was too. And I think people always have that nostalgic
just as cool,
thing.
but
Like, you know what I'm saying? But it's just, do you know, like that whole, the soundtrack was something that just knocked me out too. So I really do hope that we can get back there. And to your point, I think we are. We're on the right path, particularly with these drivers kind of getting out of their comfort zone and doing more stuff publicly and whatnot, which I've been a benefit factor of. I've loved it. So I'm very, very happy to be involved with the sport now, and particularly with the way it's being covered at Amazon. I spoke to you briefly about this before. I tell people all the time, I don't think you're going to fall in love with racing until you go to a race.
Yeah,
honestly, I can't watch hockey on TV. I love going to hockey games live.
Same, yeah.
Yeah.
Baseball, same.
Yeah, get your ass to a race. Get yourself some pit passes. Do what you can to be as close to the action. And NASCAR does let you get abnormally close to the action. It's absolutely crazy. So then that's the needle in the arm, and what keeps you there is the weekly broadcast.
Yep.
I've never had a problem with the weekly broadcast before, but social media has given voices to people who probably shouldn't have them at times, and there was just so much negativity around it.
Yeah.
That negativity is gone. It's 100% positive about this Amazon coverage, and as a result, I'm going into every week with I can't wait to go and see what these guys do at the desk and beyond. So it's been refreshing for me as a guy who never hated the old thing. How do you feel about the new coverage, and what do you think is the best thing that they've put out there that's made them differentiate from people who've covered them in the past?
Yeah, I mean, I look at this weekend at Michigan, and you had things that were happening on pit road, strategy, fuel mileage, and it's really hard for fans at home to follow along with that. And so the more that you can paint a picture and make it easier for fans to understand what's a driver doing to save fuel, how many laps does he really have? You know, is he going to run out or is he not going to run out? Before, it seemed like it was a lot of guessing game. There's technology out there. There's data coming off the cars that I just don't know if we've done a good enough job over the years of tapping into all of it and utilizing it to the fullest. I see Amazon pushing that. They did this in NFL as well. You know, they're really about analytics and bringing that to the fan. They also know they're catering to a younger fan base. Mm-hmm. And so that's sort of what they demand. And so, like, one thing that I love that I saw this past weekend was the race off pit road. We always see the race off pit road, but what do? They say, here's who stayed on track. And then from this position down, here's how many tires they took, and here's how they came off pit road. And I know as a viewer and as a fan, that's what I want to know.
Yeah.
So
even
I think it's the obvious.
Counter. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, the fuel burn counter, you know, and as a driver is you know, using the throttle, how that's affecting, you know, that number. So, and listen, I think there's ways that we can even take that to the next level, but they've done a really nice job. And then on top of that, right, You've got Steve Letard and Dale Jr. that are doing a nice job complementing the graphics.
Yeah, I think Steve did a very good job this week in particular explaining it to people like me who are just borderline idiots. But even
and by the way, I've been asking Carl Edwards, come back and please be on the broadcast. And I mean, I tried to get him to Fox, and then when Amazon was coming along, I'm like, please get Carl Edwards. And I love that he is back. Fans have been wanting him to come back. He's well spoken. He's knowledgeable, and I think he's done a great job. I think that Danielle's done a good job, and Corey LaJoy is fantastic too.
Yeah, I think it's made the experience just absolutely fantastic again, and one where it just seems more like an event. I think that's what they have done a little bit more successfully than some of the other outlets. And again, I never really had a huge problem with some of the. I have a problem with everything at this point in my life. I just have a problem with everything. But I just think that they do an outstanding job.
I do want to say, because I was part of the Fox Sports broadcast, and it's hard to change. It really is. It's hard when you've been doing something a certain way. There's camera angles and sequence. There's telling the stories. Trying to figure out how to analyze and describe something. It is very difficult to do, to your point of you got to be there in person to really understand it. It's hard to really capture that through the broadcast, but most of the time it's also very difficult to change something the way you've been doing it. When you have a very fresh look at something because you've never done it before, like Amazon, I think it's a little bit easier to incorporate some of those new ideas.
And I think they read a lot of the comment sections.
Yeah.
That's what they did. Let's talk broader picture.
Yeah.
Everything that's wrong with NASCAR right now that people are also complaining about. How come a guy like Jeff Gordon just doesn't call somebody and say, add more horsepower and give us softer tires, and then it's done by next Sunday?
Well, first of all,
you're saying change something. That could be changed, right? Or, I know that if you introduce the cartoon characters on Fox, which piss people off for some reason, it's not like the following week you just scrub the cartoon characters. There was a thing that went into that. Is there some quick fixes that you think that you can get pushed in there?
I mean, first of all, if we thought as a team, adding horsepower, softer tires was going to be the fix-all. I think
it's not.
No,
okay.
It's not. I mean, because adding horsepower, I think at certain tracks, like the mile tracks, half-mile tracks, I think we're too glued to the racetrack right now, and the everything hangs on too. It just doesn't fall. Things don't break the way they used to. So adding power, I like. Adding as much power as I think maybe it takes would do two things. One, cost. I hate bringing up cost, but it's we're talking about components that won't last, not just in the engine. So that's one. And then the other is it might make the cars harder to drive and the drivers like it more. Doesn't mean that it's going to be a better race.
Right.
And then on the Goodyear side of things, they're trying really, really hard. I've learned that a softer tire doesn't necessarily mean more fall off, and that's what we want. We don't need a softer tire. We need a tire that has grip and then falls off where the driver and the team have to manage the tire wear. And we don't have that. We just have a tire that's good. Boom. It's gone.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the real challenge. And we've seen where a 10-degree difference in track temperature can be the difference between a track laying rubber and tires lasting 100 laps or tires wearing out in 25 laps and being down to the cords. And that's a difficult position to be in as a tire manufacturer.
You'd have to bring 25 sets of tires to every goddamn race, depending on it.
But I think the teams are certainly open. We like to listen to the drivers. I do think, from a power standpoint, I think you might get your wish. Is it going to be everything that you wish for? Maybe, maybe not. But you're going to get more power in the future.
What was your favorite part of American Thunder? What was your favorite? I know what mine is, but what was your favorite part?
Well, I happened to be there in person, which was amazing to be a part of. But I loved how well captured the end of the race was, where we see this collaboration, this journey, all kind of like we did it, we accomplished it, we finished 24 hours. Oops, I'm not supposed to say that.
Yeah.
You know, and all the people that it took were there. And so like that was just such a great memory to be a part of that I'll never forget.
That's cool.
Rick Hendrickson, Jim France, and Chad Knaus and the drivers and Chevrolet and Goodyear, everybody coming together. Just a really proud moment as well as quite an accomplishment, and also kind of sad because then that meant the journey was over.
Oh yeah, I will tell you when it started raining. It's like, oh shit! It's gonna get you just don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I remember, we were in Sebring testing, and unfortunately, like we literally the cameras were rolling for everything, and unfortunately they weren't quite rolling when the car caught on fire for Jimmy during that test.
Yeah.
And so we were a little bit delayed getting to that, but that was real and that was scary. Like, I mean, here we are in one of the final test sessions and the car is catching on fire because rubber is building up, rolling off the tire and landing, basically on the header and catching fire or down in the exhaust area. And it was like, one, almost burned the car down. And two is this can't happen in Le Mans. And we got a very short period of time to fix it.
What Jeff is, we got the radio from it though.
Yeah.
And as Jimmy's like, I think, something's on fire. They're like, you sure, Jimmy? He's like, the cabin's filling up with smoke right now.
Typical Jimmy's pretty nonchalant about things when it was getting real and real big. Yeah. I mean, we captured it, so you're going to see it.
Yes.
But I wanted to see that car coming down pit road on fire like it was, because I'm watching it.
Was it really that bad?
Oh, I mean, flames are coming out, smoke's rolling out, Jimmy's jumping out, and yeah, it was a scary moment.
He is a cool customer.
He is.
We bumped into him at Daytona, and he was locked out. We just had Jimmy on 2 weeks ago. I'm not speaking out of school at all. And he was locked out of his RV. And his fire suit was in the RV.
Oh, no.
And then the announcement comes, drivers to your cars in 15 minutes.
Oh, gosh.
And he doesn't have, so he had to run and get like a backup one and just like, no problem. No, I'm Jimmy Johnson. And sort of did that whole thing. So it's so nice to, I don't know, it's a very, very good documentary for people who love NASCAR and then just have that itch to find out, and plus it's a little jingoistic. Like, we want to get over there as Americans and tear this thing apart. And even somebody had said, Mike Rockenfeller had said, I believed, he was like, we were ready to give up. And
the Americans don't give up.
Yeah, he's like, it got very American. We're not going anywhere,
you don't give up.
Yeah, it's a real feel-good and informative thing. Again, American Thunder, it's on Amazon as we speak. Let's talk about Denny, because we'll just go back to that. 700 starts, and then he gets a win. Oh, he's 1-10 over 700 starts with a win. You're on that list as well. You had, 805 starts or something in the Cup Series?
So I had like 797 in my career, when driving the 24 car. And then when Junior had his injury, I got in for 8 more. So that's what took me to 805.
How big of an accomplishment to get? He also became Joe Gibbs Racing winningest driver, which I think is something that's also pretty monumental. But how big of an accomplishment is the whole being in that seat 700 times and still performing at a level where you can win a Cup race?
Well, one of the things that I'm most proud of in my career, tying this back, is I won the Brickyard 420 years after the very first one. And so I think as a race car driver, longevity is something we probably don't highlight enough. I think you see it in other sports, but maybe not as much as in NASCAR. But, to go that far into your career and still competing at that level, the only thing Denny hasn't done right is a championship, but you're seeing where he's still very capable of it. So the other thing that I would be most proud of in my career is I went out, in 2015 competing for a championship, even though we didn't win it. And that is just underrated in my opinion. Like, it is very, very difficult to have a career from beginning to end where you stayed, at an elite level. And Denny, I don't know how much longer he's going to do this, but at 700
keeps having
starts,
kids, he's going to have to do it. You know what I mean? They ain't getting any cheaper.
And owning race teams.
Yes.
But 700 starts to be able to pull that off, and competing the way he is a huge accomplishment.
Is it because the keys get taken away from you though? Like, I think sometimes I go back to boxing. There's a lot of tickets there's a lot of paydays to be had for old boxers to still get in the ring, even though they shouldn't.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, but I think driving a race car, I've always said, is so much of a team sport.
Right.
So you're not just talking about your capabilities, your physical ability, mental ability, the commitment that it takes. You're talking about the team around you as well.
Right.
That has to, because it's going to change. There's going to be pit crew members change. You're probably going to change crew chiefs and engineers and sometimes even teams. Staying at the one team, that's key.
Yeah.
That's critical, especially a top team like I did at Hendrick and Denny's doing at JGR. But people are going to change, so you've got to always be able to surround yourself with good people to keep fast race cars and great race teams together so that you can continue to push yourself and stay on that level.
Can you give us an idea of what we're going to see at Mexico this weekend before I close up with you? Can you give us a little preview of what we're going to see down there?
I mean, what I love about this is nobody really has an edge over somebody else, right? Nobody has experience on this track. So it's going to be, I think, at least for Friday, which is the first day they're going to be on track, the race up until Friday is the engineering, the technology, the simulation, who did it best, who got, prepared the best to get the setup, the braking, learn the track the best, which setup is going to be, right for those conditions, and then the cooling, because the air, the thinner air, the higher elevation, what about the physical side of it as a driver and pit crew, but also, the thinner air, not as much downforce, not as good of cooling. How do we react to that?
Excellent. So I will be seeing you in Mexico City, correct?
I'm going to be there. You going to be there?
I'm definitely going to be there. Yeah. If you see me, don't look the other way.
Yeah, I just found out I'm the Grand Marshal.
Oh, Jesus Christ. There it is.
So I better show up.
Yeah. Keep bowing off the mezcal, and I'll see you as a Grand Marshal. I always appreciate your time, Mr. Gordon. It's an absolute pleasure talking to you. As a living legend, this is Jeff Gordon at Rubbin is Racing. Back to you and Spider. All right, so that was Jeff Gordon. Alex Bowman is going to be in Mexico. He just got to stay off the mezcal. It's so nice for Jeff Gordon just to come by and hang out with us. We're truly blessed, as some people would say. Don't you think, Spider?
We really are. We have a great crew and, people that are willing to work with us. It's great. There's a lot of noise on Twitter and social media, so it's good to have some of the GOATs come in and kind of pump your tires. We had it with Chase Elliott, Dale Jr. Every time we post or talk about Cars Tour, he's, thanking us in the DMs. So it's great to have some of the GOATs of NASCAR in your corner. We had Jimmy Johnson, we had Tony Stewart in a couple weeks ago. So hopefully we can just keep the iron, keep the wheels spinning and keep the great guests coming. I will say it's good to have guys that aren't actively driving or even kind of as much in the sport anymore. Those are the kind of guests I'm trying to get more of, because I feel like guys that are still actively employed in the sport, especially if they're current drivers, are you kind of know what to expect when you interview them. So it's good to have every now and then a veteran legend come in and kind of, shake the mold.
And I think, like, at the very least, we can clip out, Jeff, can't you just make a call and get horsepower? Like, he sort of broke stuff down on what traditional people think is wrong with NASCAR and whether or not what everyone is begging for will actually fix what ails it. Before we move on and talk about Mexico, I had seen real quickly on our social media page, we get a little shit from a dirt racer for putting in a crash. I know that, like, Moonhead and some of the guys here, we try to give some shine to, dirt racing and some of the lower series. And the only reason to do that is to do stuff that's kind of splashy, which is crashes and fucking photo finishes and stuff like that. Yeah. Like, if somebody pops a titty, we're all over that. Like, that's the river we swim in. So is there something I'm missing that we shouldn't be posting crashes for? What the gentleman's name is Corey Day, right?
Yeah.
He's an accomplished dirt track guy who also does some work in the Craftsman Truck Series and also in Xfinity, but very limited. We posted a out of the ballpark crash of his, and I believe we got a little kickback on that.
He was upset. And let me just say, as someone who formerly ran the Twitter account, I've tweeted way worse things than this. I don't understand. And I would love, this is an open invitation to Corey if he wants to FaceTime or even, I don't know what the solution is. I would love to kind of get in his head and kind of understand this, because it seems like he personally was offended by a tweet that we sent that Flow Racing, who was broadcasting the race, also sent. And we just kind of reposted it with a caption that the broadcast crew literally said Corey Day out of the ballpark. That was the caption on our tweet. He seemed to be upset. My rebuttal would be, Corey, if there's an exciting, dramatic, crazy wreck, we typically tweet it. Like, this is not, let's single out Corey Day and, highlight his shortcomings. The reality of the situation is it was a pretty dramatic wreck. I'm glad he's okay. And we tweeted it, as we do with every other tweet. Was Ty Gibbs on our ass after we tweeted his Las Vegas sprint car wreck when he went flying? No. Was Ryan Preece on our ass when he went airborne 12 times in the last 2 years? No, we talked about it at length. So I really don't understand this. And I would go back to the Dale Jr. thing. Anytime we post cars tours or, typically a lesser appreciated form of racing, the feedback has been, from Dale Jr. himself. Thank you guys for posting this. Thanks for shining a light on my series. And, I thought this was just kind of a run-of-the-mill tweet, and it seemed to kind of irk people. I don't really understand his position, to be honest with you. As I said, I think, there's wrecks that occur all the time, and we tweet them. And there was no personal shot at Corey Day. He said, why don't you only post the bad? Why don't you? Like,
Maybe
I don't
he's being
see
sarcastic. Maybe he's just being like, hey, I just fucking around. He's a 19-year-old kid. He seems like he's, seems pretty level-headed kid. Otherwise, I don't know. But
I don't know enough about him. But my point is, from what I know, based on the context of this, it just seems like a little bit of a overreaction. I also don't love the people saying, like all the people replying to his tweet saying, yeah, we're casuals. Yeah, hand up. I'll be the first. Like, that is
exactly.
Spoiler alert. That's the whole goal of our show, is to keep it elementary and like surface level enough where a new fan can tune in and understand what the hell we're talking about. If you want some deep dive, again, go listen to Dale Jr. download. I just don't really get it, but I guess all feedback is welcome. We'll hear it, but I don't necessarily agree with his position.
We do have to, if he ever wins, we have to post all of his winning clips.
So I think that's what he wants. Does he want Rubbin' His Racing Twitter to just be like the Corey Day fan page?
I guess so, but
I think we turn into a Corey Day fan page. Just
maybe. Yeah.
Or we go the other way.
If he gets a win, we got to post it and say Corey Day.
I need a 18th in a truck race graphic right now.
Jacob, prepare the graphic. But the reality of it is, if he wins a race, we probably will end up tweeting it. You know what I mean?
I mean, there's just levels to like the smaller market racing things. If you post everything that happens in there, you're gonna get 3-4 likes. But that's just how social works. Like for smaller series, you find the standout videos or like if I don't know. It's just
he must have been kidding around.
He had to be large because
he's 19
again.
Yeah, I don't think what he said was crazy. I mean,
we post videos of every dramatic wreck. Like, I think he thought it was like personal that we highlighted his wreck, when in reality that's exactly what it was. Just a highlight. Granted, not a flattering one. But guess what? As someone who works, I'm not saying I work an adjacent job, but we're also subject to feedback and criticism regularly. If I had to reply like this to every single hater I had, like, that would just be exhausting.
I just think if you go down, the reason I think it might have been sarcastic or maybe taken out of context for this young gentleman is if you just go down the page, huge shot for Alex Bowman. I mean, we showed Alex Bowman hit the fucking wall like you read about.
How about the last 2 weeks, Large? We had Larson wreck himself in 2 races.
Yeah.
We had Scott McLaughlin wreck himself. These are some of the best drivers. It's not personal if you wreck, and we tweet it. Like, what?
Ryan Blaney hits the wall and spins.
It's a
Ryan
Tuesday.
Blaney's not bitching about it. Right. And we even put in that the fucking squirrel got murdered. I haven't heard from PETA. So it's one of those things where, honestly, I think maybe we're just not getting the
maybe
and it doesn't help when you have negative commenters underneath it, which I never read, but it probably doesn't help the spirit of it. But he's maybe a 19-year-old kid just trying to be sarcastic. I hope so.
In my defense too, I was all on it. I was the one who posted it. We had a tweet that did not do numbers the other day of someone celebrating their high limit win by jumping in the lake, and he was not I don't even remember the guy's name, but he was not a NASCAR driver or anything like that. So like, it's not that we even have to post crashes. Like if Larson wins a sprint car race,
Right.
it'll probably go on the page because yes, we are like, I'm a dirt racing casual myself. Like I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I like sharing it because it's badass. Same thing with the asphalt stuff. So hopefully Corey's not too offended, but
I don't think he has
care if
anything
is,
to be
but I hope he
embarrassed,
likes it.
offended by. I mean, he seems like a young kid. As Large mentioned, he's 19 years old. He seemingly has some good opportunities before him. I just think it makes more sense to.
He probably just got on Twitter mad. Like from what it looks like he did was racing his dick off in that race and then fucked up, and then he probably goes on Twitter and he's like, "Oh, this account that never even talks about it is elevating it to more like." Do we have more followers than High Limit Racing?
I have no idea.
Yeah, like we have like double the amount. So it's probably just my first time being on Rubbin is Racing. They're just.
I bet if I met him, he would be in my favorite driver category, and instead he's upset about the most innocent
but he would
tweet.
I bet if you met him, he'd also be like, "Yeah, I wasn't even that mad about that. I was just
Well, that's kind of why I want to FaceTime him. I want to know who this guy is and see what his actual temperature is.
His dad was a fucking legend.
Yeah, that's
Ronnie
what I
did.
hear.
Yeah. All right. So that is what it is. Let's talk about Mexico. No trucks this weekend. They pick back up next week in the scenic Pocono Mountains. Xfinity has the Chilango 150 on Saturday, starting at 4:30 Eastern time on the CW. I looked it up. Chilango is slang for someone from Mexico City. So this weekend, we're all going to be Chilangos.
Well, we're not from Mexico City, are we?
We're going to pretend.
I think they're going to be calling us gringos and shit, Large.
Even if I get jackets made up that says Los Chilangos just for you and I, you think that won't do it? I get a fucking tattoo. Daniel Suarez will be in the number 9 for Junior Motorsports. Ty Gibbs will be in the 19 for JGR, and Chris Bell will be wheeling the 24 for Sam Hunt Racing. That's an interesting little race, huh? Daniel Suarez, Ty Gibbs, and Chris Bell mixing it up in the Xfinity for the Chilango 150. I'm looking forward to that.
That'll be fun.
Yeah. And then Cup, the Viva Mexico 250 is on Sunday, 15th of June. 14 turns and 7,000 feet of altitude. Don't miss the first ever points paying Cup Series race in Mexico. Man, I couldn't have fucking read that worse, huh?
I thought you said 7,000 feet of alcohol for a minute.
Yeah, 7,000 fucking drinks of alcohol. 14 turns and 7,000 feet of altitude. Don't miss the first ever points paying Cup Series race in Mexico. Coverage starts at 3 p.m. live from Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, only on Amazon Prime. And Catherine Legg will be driving the number 78 for Live Fast. The only body I saw.
No way. That's not part of the ad read.
No, it's not. People keep saying how these poor drivers or hauler drivers are going from Michigan to Mexico City, then back up to Pocono. I think they have over 5,000 miles that they're logging, within a couple of weeks. I believe it's because this race was supposed to be the one that was in Montreal. And when you think of it, would have been Michigan, Montreal, Pocono, that would have been lovely. But when Montreal kind of fell apart and Mexico did come to fruition, this spot was the only one that they basically had within the schedule. So that kind of clears that up a little bit. Everyone's talking about thinner air, less cooling, reducing horsepower. Some teams are trying to work around it. Some guys are in breathing chambers and stuff. Denny Hamlin's like, fuck it, I'm just going to wing it. If he even goes, he's just got this attitude about it, which I kind of love. Spider, where we saw all the haulers meet at the border, then get the armed guards to kind of run them through like a scene out of Sicario. We've seen what Dale Jr. just tweeted about him having some problems. On a scale of 1 to 10, how safe do you feel about going to this race?
I would say 7.5.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. The concern level is kind of non-existent in my opinion. A lot of my friends or coworkers have been to Mexico City before, and there's a big narrative going around that it's almost that there is a large American population that kind of relocated there, whether it be during COVID or for retirement or whatever it may be. So yeah, I mean, between both of those things, people's firsthand experience, I spoke to Wonton Don. He's like, you have nothing to worry about. And then also the fact that, this is a place that people frequent or even consider moving to, is kind of what reassures things for me. And then I will say kind of the only thing that I'm skeptical of is you see the haulers with armed security cars driving ahead and behind them, with turrets in the bed of their Ram truck, which is a little bit like, damn, maybe they're privy to some information I'm not. But no, for the most part, I think it'll be fine. I think, there's going to be a heavily kind of attended touristy event to begin with. So I like to think that, there will be things will be prepared accordingly for that with that context.
I'm feeling good about it.
Yeah.
Like, to your point, I think, the whole armed guard thing is very, very cool. Plus, they're driving through a lot of places that I wouldn't feel comfortable being in
That's
before
probably
they get
why.
to Mexico City.
Right.
But yeah, the city itself, seems like they, obviously they've hosted stuff like this before, not Cup Series. But I don't know, I'm looking more and more forward to it as time goes on.
Who's
Food
the
scene,
guy?
like I'd said from the top, is fucking top notch. It just seems like a weird time geopolitically to be going to Mexico, right? Like, that's the only reason why I don't think it's nines for both of us, is just because, I don't know, people are throwing rocks at cop cars this week. It just, they blocked off a bunch of streets. I don't know how it is in Chicago.
Well,
but
so
New York
that's
has
my
individual
thing.
protests. Like, I don't know what's going on.
That's like, I can't be that like worried about safety or scared when I live in Chicago for
Right.
2+ years. So, yeah, I think it's just it's like any other city. You got to be street smart. You got to be, aware of your surroundings and just not a dumbass or not rude or disrespectful. And I think everything will be fine. So yeah, when this was talked about, I was all over it. I wanted to be there. I thought it would be a cool event. You mentioned Canada large. I think that's interesting, especially coming from Michigan. I think it would have made more sense logistically to kind of go north of the border instead of south.
Yeah.
And not even Montreal, which I know has been toyed with a lot. There's been discussions there, and maybe some alternative racing series have kind of squashed those opportunities. But at the same time, Canada has a lot of tracks. I go back to the interview we did with Christopher Bell, and I'm neglecting to remember which specific track it was that he mentioned. But, they've raced there in the past, not in Montreal. And I think even if they couldn't work it out there, it could be something cool in the future, or they could have pivoted to a different track there, which way it would have been way more logistically feasible for these hauler drivers.
Moonhead, I think I might get you out of here a little early today, but before you go, scale of 1 to 10, how fucking jealous are you that you're not going to Mexico City?
Man, I'd love to be there for the event, but the travel seems like a headache, so I ain't gonna be too jealous of y'all down there. I know y'all hold it down for us. I think my couch will be just fine.
There you go. You're gonna have to carry the NASCAR Prime discussion next week and let us know how sick that race looked on
I'm
TV.
excited. I think they're gonna knock it out of the park.
I think so too.
But what is Corey and Carl going to wear? Like tight mariachi pants? Stay tuned, everybody, to maybe this year.
That's why Large is tuning in.
Yeah. I want to see the outline of
Meat
Carl
Watcher.
Edwards' dick. Yeah. We're going to go make some picks. Picking the Tires brought to you by DraftKings. The NBA Finals are here. This is your last chance to bet on the NBA until next season. And DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is pulling out all the stops to make this a finals to remember. One team will be crowned champ and the other will be lost to history. Who you got winning it all? Put your hoops expertise to the test all season long. DraftKings has been the go-to spot for NBA player props. Doesn't stop now. Who's going to carry their team to the chip? Try placing a bet on your personal MVP to drop 30, 40, maybe even 50. Ready to place your first bet? Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. Lock in your bets and finish this season as a winner. And here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers, bet only $5 to get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Don't miss your last chance to bet on the NBA this season. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code Rubbin. That's code Rubbin, Rubbin, for new customers to get $300 in bonus bets when you bet $5. If your bet wins, only on DraftKings, the crown is yours. I don't have any winners. I'm not betting any winners. So you guys mind if I go first here?
Please.
Go for it.
Okay.
I think we're going to have a lot of overlap this week.
Really?
You are?
I think we all are going to kind of overlap each other.
Okay. I'm going to do one in Xfinity. I'm going to take Daniel in the Xfinity. He's paying plus 330 to win there. I might as well take Daniel Suarez. It'd be a great story and something I want to root for. Then when we move on to Sunday, I'm going to take Michael McDowell plus 250 for a top 5 finish. And I'm going to do very short odds on Ty Gibbs playing on that momentum that Spider had mentioned before as a top 10 finish at plus 130. I was talking to Mike McDowell at that premiere thing, and we were talking about Mexico, and then Ty Gibbs, obviously, with the momentum. But Ty Gibbs only plus 130. And the only other long shot I'm throwing in is a top 10 finish for Catherine Legg, paying plus 2,000. So that's my card, 1 Xfinity and 3 in the Cup Series. What do you guys got? You got any overlap with me, Quiggs?
Not really.
No, you don't. What's up?
I jumped the gun on that one.
Yep. Spider, what do you got? Or who you want to go?
Ahead,
You want
Quiggs. You go.
Okay. I bet we'll have some overlap.
Yeah.
I have mine are a little systematic. If I could take this as one bet, I would, but I'm taking it separately, and it may actually work out better for me. But I'm taking all the Trackhouse drivers to win.
Okay.
I'm taking Shane, I'm taking Daniel, and I'm taking Ross. Shane, I'm getting at plus 330. Daniel Suarez, I'm getting at plus 1,400. And Ross Chastain, I'm getting at plus 1,800. I think Trackhouse wins in some form or fashion this weekend.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably a smart bet. I mean, you got to think Daniel's going to be the guy that the crowd is pulling for. And then you have SVG, who's, I think, around plus 330 right now.
That's crazy.
By far the favorite.
Ross has been running good. I'm going to start with Xfinity, and Connor Zilisch is plus 100, which I hate. But he's going to be on my card, and I'm going to parlay him.
Oh, I love that.
With AJ Allmendinger, 25 to 1 for them both to win the race. AJ is 12 to 1 in Sunday's Cup race. Road course driver. I think he's probably kind of a little bit overlooked, and I don't mean that as a short joke because we're probably similar sizes. But I mean, like, everyone like Quiggs is going Trackhouse, or they're going Chase Elliott or Tyler Reddick, which I kind of like those guys as well. Historical road course ringers, but I'm going to go, I guess AJ is as well, but you know what I mean? He's kind of not the flashy one. So yeah, I like both those guys to win in their respective races. I'm parlaying it 25 to 1. We cashed on a pick 6 last week. I had Ty Gibbs and Chris Buescher both to finish better than 11.5 and 12.5 respectively.
Nice.
They finished second and third. So that was great. Check out the Pick 6 app by DraftKings. There's a link in my Twitter bio to sign up. If you wager $5, you will get $50 in credits immediately. So for now, all I have is that parlay. And then I'll have some Pick 6s as we go later on in the week. I do think Carson Hosvar plus money for a top 10 is pretty fair. And I'm trying to see, is there anyone else I kind of like?
AJ Allmendinger is plus money for a top 5.
Yeah. I mean, there's only 2 guys that are minus money for a top 5. You got SVG minus 230, Bell minus 115, which isn't even, that's right there. So
I'm stealing what you did.
You're parlaying
Zilisch with all 3 of my picks.
Okay. Can you do a round robin or something like that?
No, I'm just doing Zilisch and Shane Van Gisbergen, Zilisch and Suarez, Zilisch and Ross Chastain.
So yeah,
I'm just heavily counting that he's going to win that race, and then I'll get way better odds on everything.
I mean, I know they're like, anytime I take a guy with that low of odds, people are like, this is the worst bet ever. What are you doing? And that there is obviously, truth and logic in that. But at the same time, a lot of times those guys go on to win, and their odds are that way for good reason.
Yeah, he's going to win that.
So I think Zilisch, a guy that explained to us earlier this season, grew up on, kart racing and non-ovals. I think he's a great pick here, and the sportsbook seemingly agrees. Shout out DraftKings. The only thing I'd be worried about is
just out of
does Ty Gibbs just dive bomb him in like a last corner? Yeah. Does Suarez move him and the crowd grows to their feet?
Risk I'm willing to take.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So then we're in. Connor Zilisch, that plus 100. It's crazy, but yeah, the kid is that fucking good. I'm wondering if I could do a parlay that Connor and Shane both don't finish the race, right? Like what that would be.
That would be cool.
Something else. That's all we got this week for Rubbin is Racing. Again, we're heading south of the border in a couple of days, so we'll be back with a first-hand account of all the shit that had gone down in Mexico City. Wish us luck, and we'll see you next week on Rubbin is Racing.
Peace.